Okay, I got the blow-off valve on, just one. I think this was probably meant to be one in each of these pipes. This one and this one. I had to reclock the turbo because this is where it's supposed to go. I was trying to get it somewhere. I was trying to get it over here and get it out of the way of some of this other stuff, but it didn't work out, so I just did it the way it was designed to do it. And it's just barely clearing, but I might get a new alternator. I'm tired of messing with these 3-wire alternators. So there's the other turbo coming down. They both collect into this side and come out this way. And I'm sure if I adjust the screw, it'll adjust a spring in there, make that harder or easier to blow off. And then I could connect a vacuum, but the cold side is now connected. The hot side is now connected. Still got to put hangers up back here, but we're getting there now. I think that might be it. All that's left is maybe wiring and some other stuff. I think next I gotta clean up that mess. A lot of that stuff is the original wires that went to the solenoid, and some of them go to the headlights and stuff like that. Everything on the side of the car, the washer fluid that's no longer there. I don't even know if these are needed for sure or not, but I need to get that wired and tied and tucked. And then this wire here is going back to the battery, bringing power up to the front. I needed to get that tucked and protected. So, time to tuck the fender wires. O2 sensors are installed. Fender wires are tucked. I gotta admit, they went in just a little bit harder than I was comfortable with. I didn't have a tap though, so just a little harder than I wanted. That'll probably come back out. And what else did I do? I got that put together. I already pointed that out. Got this locked right so that it closes that exhaust blow off. This one does not look like it's closed all the way, so I'm gonna have to adjust that. I had to adjust that out, and it's straight up and down now. That should be closed. That's the clutch pedal. That's the brake pedal. I think that clutch might have had a master cylinder. That's the gas pedal right there. And that's the clutch. Huh. That's interesting. That's the brake master cylinder. Alright, I'm trying to figure out the relays to the fan and the water pump. And so these diagrams on here are a little confusing to me. So what I do is I just test them and see which wires do what. So this yellow wire, I got that going to a 12-volt source. This purple wire is also a 12-volt source, and I have them pinched together. So this orange wire goes to the fan, right? Okay, and this black wire is going to be a ground trigger, and this goes to the ground. And these were already wired with these wires coming out of them, otherwise I would have connected to the relay. But since the wires were thin, I figured, well, one's a thin ground wire, trigger wire, and one's a thin 12-volt wire. So I put the 12-volt sources together, right? And now when I touch this, well, why isn't it working? Oh, because this wire over here, it goes to a chassis. That's for the fan, and I haven't hooked that up yet. So now this goes straight to the fan, grounding the fan, so the negative to the fan goes to the chassis. This is going to the chassis, but this is actually going to go to the ECU, because the ECU grounds it to trigger it. So now I'm going to ground it, and the fan works. So this is how I have to wire it up. These two wires got to go to a 12-volt source. This orange wire, and that's an untriggered 12-volt source, unswitched. Well, besides the ignition switch, so it'd be an ignition switched 12-volt source. And this one's going to go to the fan, and this one's going to go to the ECU trigger wire. And so that's how the relay works, although I think I really got this going to an untriggered 12-volt source. If that sticks, you know, open or whatever, or closed, then the fan will run when I turn the ignition off. It won't shut off. I should be able to notice that though. But I could go ahead and wire this one, actually, this little wire, to a switched, ignition switched 12-volt source, which is probably what I'll do. This will go to the unswitched source, and this will go to a switched source, and then they both would have to be getting 12 volts in order for it to work. And then when the ECU triggers the fan on, bam. So that's how I figure out the relays. Now I'm just going to take this label maker and identify each wire so I don't have to worry about it again. I'll just look at it and say this goes here and this goes there based on how I label them. Okay, I got the plug wires in, and I use this insulation stuff, but these headers are so tight that it's touching, and there's really not a whole lot I can do about it. So these plug wires are, some of them, like that one there, in the back right here, right there. There's nothing I can do with it besides run them underneath, and these wires are stock wires. They're not going to do that. So what I need to do is make custom wires that, and I don't know when I'll do it, but they go from here down around here and then underneath, and then they'll probably be 90s, and that'll get, because everything's above the header, so when I get down low I shouldn't have an issue. And I'll wind up doing the same thing here. These are going right by the turbo, and I'm gonna eventually wrap the turbo in something, but they're a little better over here but still going to be an issue. So yeah, the stock plugs aren't going to be a good deal. So function is secondary to looks. No, looks is secondary to function. So this isn't going to look that good. I guess I could paint it, but it's going to function well because it won't be burning up that hose when it gets hot, because that hose being that close, it's eventually going to crack and then it'll wind up leaking, and we don't want that. So that's what it looks like now, and this will, no matter how hot this gets, it's not going to melt. And this is, it looks like it's right next to it, but it's pretty far away. See, so do the same thing over here. Now I gotta do these vacuum hoses and stuff. You can, you know, you can't see the one, but you can see the other one when you are looking in the engine bay, but it's barely noticeable if you don't really know what you're looking at to try to find it. This is a heat shield that I got for, I don't know, what was it, $100 or $75 or $50, something like that. Anyway, it's just a cover, and I'm going to be able to put whatever insulation in there, I guess. I'll have to, they get mixed reviews on those turbo covers, so without paying a lot, you get the ones that are cheap, don't last very long, don't work, and fall apart. So I got those just because I know that I could probably take, and there's some metal heat shield that's made out of metal that I could probably form and rivet and whatever and box this in. And so that was kind of the plan, was to, so this is just kind of mocked in there right now, but the plan was to put metal eventually around here and the heat shield stuff, and so that would box that in, and it would shoot the heat down there. Well, it's not like it's going to blast out of there, but it would keep it away from this, which is the main goal. So even if I just did one plate around this and here, maybe move this over a little, well, I'm putting an elbow there, so anyway, that's the start of that job. I failed to find it in these instructions, but it's missing a harness, so I'm sure that's another $100. They have all these little hidden charges for things that don't come with it. So these two plug in here, and then I need to get the 12 volt that goes straight to the battery, that harness. I plugged this into my race car. That's when I realized it works, but I need another harness. So back on wait. Okay, I got the timing set to 12 at under 800 RPMs, and I just got the fuel pump to work. So this is the first start. Oh, give it any gas at all and it dies. It's interesting. Side limit 20, but the timing is quite low on the vacuum. That's a belt or what? See those two sensors bouncing around and it's running. The only thing I can think of is that this joint right here might need a gasket or something. I tightened this already pretty good. Pretty sure I'm sealed up good enough for it to work good. This other side is an aftermarket one that goes just to a gauge. You know what I should do? I should swap them around, because this one's getting more steady readings. So I should just put the ECU on that one and put the gauge on that one and see what happens. Okay, that worked. Interesting. And this one's handling it better. That one's, maybe I had them backwards. That one's handling it better and this one's working right now, so I might have mixed up the O2 sensors, I don't know. Okay, so that's working good. For some reason I don't have a, here the battery voltage is, there it is down there, 13 volts. Maybe it is charging because it was reading 12 earlier when I tried to start it. It's working, it's going up. Alright, I think this thing's ready for a test drive tomorrow.
Alright, the two wires that are getting hot. This is red and green ignition switch wire. That's the one right under here underneath the dash. Right there. When you turn on the key, it sends power here. Now, the other wire that was hot is this one. And this one's going to the alternator. I thought it was a 12 volt reference wire. I don't know if maybe it's drawing power or sending power. But this wire and this wire were hot. Really hot. And the only thing that this wire is powering is the stereo and the gauge. So why is that wire so hot? It's like this one is probably the issue. I should pull that off and see if it's got a 12 volt, if it's sending 12 volts or something. This that I had thought was a reference wire for the alternator, if I touch this to the positive, this goes to the battery, right? That's a switch source, but this goes basically straight to the battery. Watch this. It pulls it down and it goes from 13, watch this, 13 volts see, I touched it and it drug it down. So this, it's got 7 volts on it, but when I touch it to that, it sparks like it's a ground almost, but it doesn't. See? And it pulls down the alternator. Puts a draw, it pulls it down to 12 volts. Look at that, it's at 13 volts right now. So, whatever this wire is, it's connected to the alternator. It shouldn't be connected to a positive, and I'm afraid to connect it to a ground. It was high idling, like up in here into 19 degrees at 1400 RPMs, and I couldn't get it to come down. I went over to, where is it? On the D cell, fuel control. And I enabled this. I just turned it on and it cuts the fuel until it gets down to, idle, I guess. I don't know. It's a D cell cutoff. But anyway, with it engaged, here, I'll rev it. See how it cut it? It was hovering over there by the 19 and idling high. Now it don't. Look at that. That was, if you look at one of my last videos, that was way down. Now it's reacting well. Need to hook up the temperature gauge too, and the oil gauge. Pretty sure the fuel gauge is going to work. It just only has like a gallon in it. That's the voltage now. See that D cell? The D cell cut it out. Fuel pressure is 47. I need to go into something and for a first ride. I should make this quick, so I don't know how good the battery's charging. Sputtering and sputting, hesitating. Turntable. It has no power. Well, it did get up and go. Once this turbo's kicked in. Might not be learning anything because I might have it set for being warmed up. Alright, that's enough. I need to concentrate. Alright, that's it for this video. All that's really left to do is tune on it. And I got a new battery. And I got a alternator on the way because this is a 75 amp alternator. And I'm pretty sure I'm running at least 80 amps with the fan and the water pump and the fuel pump. And the lights and the radio, everything. So I got one that's going to be 100 to 140. I think it's 100 amps at idle, which should be a little bit more than I need, and it should make it a more reliable ride. So right now I don't want to drive it too much because it's kind of leaching off the battery, and when I get like 13 volts or 14 volts at idle, that's when I'll feel a lot safer driving this around. But I'm not real good at tuning, so I'm probably not going to do much for as far as trying to do tuning videos too much. So that wraps it up. I got the turbos installed and it's running, and maybe I'll start on another project, or you'll be hearing from me soon about that 65. I'm gonna be doing that one next, and I got some other little projects in line, so like and subscribe if you want to see that stuff.